Well, you can't really blame Kendall Hinton for this one, but the Broncos fall 31-3 in I guess you would call it a historic game here at Empower Field at Mile High. Hello, and thank you for joining us for the Broncos Postgame show. I'm Phil Milani alongside Eric Dalala. Eric, it's been a crazy 24 hours here. The Broncos essentially playing without a quarterback and playing one of the best defenses in the NFL at the same time.
Yeah, and Phil, let's start with Kendall Hinton, who was placed in somewhat of an impossible situation. Of course, on Saturday, Drew Lock, Brett Rippon, Blake Bortles, all having to be yanked from practice. They ended up on the reserve COVID-19 list today because of being close contacts. And Kendall Hinton, who hasn't played quarterback since Wake Forest, his collegiate days, is told, hey, you've got to be ready to play. Only attempted 9 passes, Phil, completed 1 of them. Broncos are the first team since 1998 to have fewer completions than interceptions. But, it's hard to blame him. He was in an impossible situation, like we said. Vic Fangio applauded him for being ready, said that he had a great attitude about it, did the best he could. It just ended up being a situation, Phil, against one of the best defenses in the NFL that the Broncos simply couldn't win from that spot. And to be honest, going against any NFL defense with just 24 hours to game plan without a quarterback, like you mentioned, that's not a recipe for success.
Yeah, and even Hinton said that he didn't feel like he played up to his abilities, but maybe a couple practices here or there could have actually helped him play a little bit better. But as far as the game goes, Eric, the Broncos turned the ball over 3 times. The Saints were able to, I believe they rushed for more than 200 yards on the ground and really ran away with this one, 31-3 the final.
Yeah, again, hard to blame the defense either because they came out and they played really well to begin with, forced a bunch of punts early on. Taysom Hill certainly didn't look anywhere near as impressive as he did a week ago against Atlanta, but it was just too much to overcome. Draymond Jones jumps off sides on a 4th and 1 that allowed the Saints to get their first touchdown, and if that wasn't a big enough lead, Lloyd Cushenberry had an errant snap that Philip Lindsay couldn't corral, and before you know it, they're up 14-0. An interception happens right before the end of the first half. They had another field goal to go up 17-0. And what went from a 0-0 game at the end of the first quarter quickly kind of spiraled out of control. And the Broncos just didn't have the offensive firepower at that point, Phil, to come back. So, some people look and say, hey, another game where you allow 200 rushing yards. I believe that's 3 in the last 4 weeks. It's been a problem. But to me, this doesn't go in the same bucket just because the Saints at a certain point, Phil, are just trying to wilt away the clock, and the defense was out there so much. Broncos just 1 of 10 on 3rd down as an offense, weren't able to stay on the field, obviously. And so just a tough ask of the defense, of the offense, really, that had Kendall Hinton back there sometimes. They had Melvin Gordon, Royce Freeman, Philip Lindsay. Everybody but a quarterback took snaps today.
Yeah, and it really seemed like anytime they actually were moving the ball a little bit, penalty or a turnover, boom, things just go the other direction there. So the Broncos really unable to do much here on this Sunday. Where do they go from here, Eric? They dropped to 4-7 on the season, and now if the Saints wasn't a difficult enough opponent, they're heading on the road to face their rival in the Kansas City Chiefs.
And maybe not the week you want to go and head to Arrowhead Stadium to play a Chiefs team that just beat the Buccaneers and is playing as good as anybody in the league. I think, first of all, you got to figure out what's your plan at quarterback. Vic Fangio did mention that if Drew Lock, Brett Rippon, Blake Bortles continue to test negative, they'll be able to come back to the facility on Tuesday, he expects. That would mean they'd get a full week of practice up ahead of Sunday Night Football at Arrowhead. But if that doesn't happen, Phil, maybe you're able to sign somebody off the street and get them ready just before the game. The COVID protocols are tough, though, Phil. You have to, I believe, 6 consecutive days of testing. So that would have to happen right away. Regardless, Phil, I just think, everything has to be a little bit better. The defense, obviously, offensively, you got to throw this one away. And you kind of got to look back, a week ago against the Miami Dolphins and say what could have improved from that game, or look back when you played a tough team in the Raiders and kind of evaluate that. So Kareem Jackson said he's going to leave and he's not going to think about this game again. I think that's kind of the right attitude to have, just given the circumstances.
Yeah, flush it away and try and move on and do whatever you can to get ready for the Chiefs here. But I will say, post game, Vic Fangio was very brutally honest about his quarterbacks. Put a lot of the blame on them for not wearing their masks in a meeting that turned out to be a Tuesday off day meeting that the quarterbacks came in and looked at some film on their own. That's the incident that the league found out about and punished the Broncos by not letting their quarterbacks play here today. So we'll see what happens the rest of this week. I do believe that the facility is closed the next couple of days. So we'll see how the Broncos come back on Wednesday and get set to face the defending Super Bowl champs. All right, that's going to do it for us. For Eric Dalal, I'm Phil Milani. The Broncos fall to the New Orleans Saints 31-3.